Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. My name is Asaf Weiss, and I serve as Vice President of the American Jewish Congress and as Deputy Mayor of the city of Ramat Gan, one of Israeli cities that has suffered some of the heaviest rocket attacks since the beginning of the war. It is an honor to moderate this important briefing hosted by the American Jewish Congress in partnership with the World Zionist Organization. As tension between Israel and Iran continue to escalate, we believe it is critical to provide first-hand insight from those who are shaping Israel's military and diplomatic responses. Later in this session, I will share with you photos and videos from the city of Ramat Gan, from the locations of the rocket hits, offering a glimpse of the local impact and the municipality response. We will have time for questions at the end of the briefing, so please feel free to submit your questions in the chat at any point during the session. Before we begin, I encourage everyone to follow the American Jewish Congress and the World Zionist Organization on social media and to join our mailing list. We'll send you a follow-up email after this briefing with all the links that you can follow. As always, we remember and continue to advocate for the immediate release of 50 hostages, our brothers and sisters who are still held in captive in inhumane condition by Hamas in Gaza. Both President Rosen and President Dorfman are actively involved in the endeavor to secure the hostages' release and support of their families. Now, let's begin. It is my pleasure to introduce Daniel Rosen, President of the American Jewish Congress. Daniel has led our organization through a time of intense geopolitical challenge and growing global engagement, and continues to be a leading voice for Israel and the Jewish people, both in Washington and beyond. President Daniel.
Thank you, Asaf. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. I also want to say what an honor it is to do this with my dear friend Tova Dorfman, and thank you for partnering in this important discussion at a critically important time. We're living through a truly historic moment. In recent days, Israel carried out, as we all know, a necessary strike deep inside Iran, targeting critical components of its nuclear and missile infrastructure. The support provided by the United States in this operation was not only meaningful, but historic. This joint action brings together the United States and Israel closer to a new Middle East, one where tyrants are held accountable, genocidal threats are confronted, and freedom-loving nations stand together to defend peace. At the same time, Iran continues to launch relentless attacks on Israel civilians. More than 500 ballistic missiles and over 1,100 explosive drones have been fired at Israeli cities. These attacks have killed 25 innocent people, destroyed entire neighborhoods, left thousands homeless, and even deliberately struck Soroka Medical Center in southern Israel. We are honored today to host Moshe Tur-Paz, who is a member of the Knesset Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee and a lieutenant colonel in the IDF Reserves. His presence is a powerful reminder of the deep ties between our communities and one of our shared commitment to Israel's security and resilience. The American Jewish Congress continues to lead in the fight to defend Israel's security, to strengthen the U.S.-Israeli cooperation, and to demand the immediate release of the 50 hostages still held by Hamas. We hope this decisive moment marks the beginning of a safer future when Iran's nuclear and missile programs no longer threaten the region and the world. Thank you for being with us at this incredibly important moment.
Thank you, President Rosen. And now it is my honor to introduce Tova Dorfman, President of the World Zionist Organization and Director of the Steinhardt Foundation. Tova is a tireless advocate for the Jewish people, leading efforts to empower Jewish identity and education through the world, through both the World Zionist Organization and our work within the foundation. Tova, thank you for joining us.
Wait, Tova, you're on mute, I believe.
Tova, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Asaf, and thank you, Dan. It's an honor to partner with the American Jewish Congress. For those of you who don't know what the World Zionist Organization is, the World Zionist Organization was founded in 1897 by Theodor Herzl during the first Zionist Congress in Basel, Switzerland. And its original purpose was to establish a legally secured home for the Jewish people in the land of Israel. Herzl envisioned that the World Zionist Organization as a unifying body to mobilize global Jewish political, financial, and moral support for the Zionist cause. And it is really the basis of how the state was created. It was the blueprint for the creation of the state. Today, we serve, since Zionism has been really under attack, more than ever, it is important to emphasize what Zionism is all about. Number one, national security. So we're talking about Israel must defend its citizens against existential threat. Jewish continuity, a secure, vibrant Jewish state, which reinforces Jewish identity globally. And finally, global solidarity. The state of Israel is the heart of the world Jewish life, and its well-being strengthens the Jewish people everywhere. So it is important to reiterate how important Zionism is today, and we all know that it's been under fire for the last couple of years, especially since October 7th. For the Jewish people, this is a time for courage and resolve. Whatever one's opinion on the war in Gaza, there should be no disagreement among us about the imperative of preventing the nuclear capability of a regime obsessed with the destruction of Israel. We know that an obsession with Jews usually ends very badly and in mass murder. That possibility has now been thwarted. And we are lucky to have MK Moshe Tur-Paz, also known as Kinley, with us to be able to brief us on what has happened in the last 2 weeks and what the future holds for us. So I'm going to hand it back over to Asaf to introduce MK Tur-Paz.
Thank you, Tova. Now, as Tova mentioned, our keynote speaker today is member of Knesset, Moshe Kinley Tur-Paz. He is a member of the Knesset Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee and a lieutenant colonel in the IDF Reserve, a former combat officer who has served in recent Gaza operation during his time as member of Knesset. Kinley brings both strategic depth and real-time insight into Israel's current defense strategy. Kinley, thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much, Asaf. Thank you, my friends Tova and Daniel. Thank you, AJC and the WZO, for having me with you. So it's now evening in Israel, just over 7 o'clock. And this is the 10th day of the Rising Lion operation, as it is called. I was actually born in the United States, in Philadelphia, but raised in Israel, in Haifa, and then in Jerusalem. Principal, a teacher, and afterwards head of the educational system of the city of Jerusalem for 25 years altogether. Came to Knesset 4.5 years ago and been focused on education and security, two areas of, I think, strategic thought and needs in the rise of Israel since it was founded for the last 77 years. So we started this operation 10 days ago, and it had two missions. It still has. One is the nuclear program of Iran, of the Iran regime, and the second is the ballistic program, which people knew much less, and I will give a few words about it in a few sentences. On the 9th night of the operation, we had the United States Army attacking 3 nuclear areas in Iran, in Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. And those were specifically the first one, Fordo, was very needed because Israel couldn't or had some difficulties in overtaking it. And since then, and over the last 10 days, Israel is still operating in Iran, taking air superiority, which is something that wasn't taken for granted for any of us, attacking military areas and trying very hardly to differ between army targets and civilian targets. Now, for these 10 days, Iran has been shooting to many areas in Israel, including centers of cities, including Asaf City, Ramat Gan. And the reason is because Iran knows that the way to fight Israel, the bad way, the cruel, evil way, is to hit its citizens, because the fact that we give so much place for lives of our people, Jews and Arabs together. And I must say that we had also Arab cities hit, including the city of Tamra, where head of opposition Yair Lapid just ran today to visit. Starting this operation, Iran had 2,500 ballistic missiles, between half a ton and 1.5 tons of explosives. Each hit by a missile like that can take down tens of buildings and could kill thousands of people. Israel has prepared to this kind of war, not totally and not good enough in a frank look, but has been preparing to it. And about 50%, a bit less, 40-something% of Israelis have a safe room in the house that is meant to deal with most of the explosives that can be carried by a missile, if not directly hitting the building. The other 55%, some have shelters, but almost a quarter of Israelis have no shelter or safe room in the house, and that's something that we knew about, but now we're dealing with. Over 10,000 Israelis had to leave their homes and now are staying either at hotels or at family houses that they chose to go to. And the reason Israel actually went to war at this time, to the Rising Lion operation, is because we had deep intel in Iran that Iran is both moving on to weaponizing its nuclear force, which has been working for over a decade, and is also moving, and that was the most secret part of their system, to build and have many strategic missiles. They wanted to get to 3,000 new ones each year. And the plan was to have 20,000 missiles. And I'm sure you understand this was a real threat. So Israel actually acted at the last moment, you could say, last moment before weaponizing the nuclear forces and before having another mass of missiles. I'll just say, I hope it's not too late, that I see this inside discussion as a discrete one, and I hope you'll treat it in the same manner. But I'm saying what can be told at this, friendly environment. So we acted at the last moment, and we managed, with the help of the United States, but mostly led by the IDF forces, to take out most of the nuclear weapon and a lot of the ballistic missiles, and we're still working at it. At the same time, as Daniel said before, 550 missiles were shot at Israel. We had between 5 and 8% of them hitting. The others were shot on the way by our anti-aerial systems. And at those who did manage to reach Israeli cities, killed 25 people. Hundreds were injured. As I said, 10,000 have to leave their homes. That means 1 of every 1,000 Israeli is out of his home right now. Yes, we're a country of 10 million people. Now, the Iranian threat wasn't only targeted at Israel, and you should understand that. Iran was always calling Israel the little Satan and the United States the big Satan. And those missiles and that nuclear weapon wasn't only targeting the United States, they could also threaten Europe, and Europe actually understands that, and American assets around the world. So the Western countries, most of Western countries, understood the Iranian threat. Some of them even shared with us intel. Some of them are helping us defending Israel, not the offensive work, but the defensive work. Germany president just said this the other day, that Israel is doing the dirty work of the world, and Britain supported the United States attack on the nuclear weapon in Iran. On the 12th of June, the Saba Committee said that Iran was acting at a non-compliance act, and that gave some kind of, you could say, authority or openness to the Israeli acts. We have been having the E3, Germany, Britain, and France organization talks with Iran, but as we see them, the last one was took place 2 days ago. We see it as a kind of time-consuming thing, because Iran wouldn't even reason talks about uranium enriching or taking out the missile program. So at the moment, those talks haven't made any progress. Now, Israel is, as we speak, still focused at finishing the job of taking the nuclear program back many years, hopefully illuminating it, but at least moving it back for a few years. And you should know Iran is a huge country, and targeting all the nuclear areas is a big target, hasn't been finished yet, and same goes for the missiles. Now, Israel has made its aim not to involve other countries in the Mediterranean, and has shown the proxies, the Iranian organizations in Iraq, Hezbollah and Hamas and Islam Jihad, giving out our messages that they shouldn't come in and join the Iranians, or they'll pay a price, and that's still to be seen. Iran, as mentioned, has hit the Soroka Hospital in Beersheba and the El Jorina Mosque in Haifa. So it doesn't differ between Jews and Arabs, between army and civilian, and between religious areas and hospitals. And that's how Iran thinks, and that's a big threat it still holds. Now, we are trying to get our international one message out, and that is that Iran should come back to negotiations, understanding that its nuclear program and its missile program should be stopped and demolished. We haven't put a change of government as an aim for this operation, because we see that as an area of the Iranian people. We would like to see a change in the Iranian government, but we see it as an internal issue of Iran. There hasn't been any radiological damage of our attacks. We've taken care of that, and we didn't act at the Bushehr port or area because we didn't want the economy of Iran to be hurt severely, although if war goes on, that could change. Now, Iran is also talking about leaving the agreement of the NPT, which is the non-nuclear agreement, and we see that as another fault of Iran. And I must say, Iran has violated the NPT agreement from the beginning. So we don't see that as a change or something that we put many, of our thoughts about. We see the close future, we do hope to see a very close agreement held with Iran after we finished our targets. And then we do aim to see also an agreement in Gaza, bringing back our 50 hostages. And this is an opposition, the first opposition sentence I'll say, I do see the end of war in Gaza as another aim, and another opposition sentence, hopefully we'll see Israel going to elections and re-asking the people, what do they want? How do they see the next government being? So that's an overall look with very few opposition sentences, and mostly about the war as we see it as a whole country. Thank you for them now, and I'm open for questions.
Thank you very much, Kingsley. Before we switch to questions, I remind everyone that you can write the questions on the chat, and we'll ask the MK the questions themselves. I want to apologize for MK Elazar Stern, who we were hoping will be able to join us during the session, but unfortunately has an emergency related to everything that's going on, so he was unable to join us. The first question that we got, Kingsley, is: can you speak to the collaboration between Israel and the United States during this crisis? And also a follow-up question: why is this an issue that should concern Americans? You touched on it a little bit, but maybe you can elaborate on that.
Okay, so I'll try to be very frank and open. We have had a very good collaboration with the American authorities, both on Biden government and on Trump's government. We saw eye to eye on most of issues, over 90%, and we did work very closely with the American government on the Iranian threat. And when we had our disagreements, we always said we will act as an independent country, and yet we will always be very on job and very connected to to the American government, and so we did. America knew that we were going to act, and as we saw the day before, also acted with us on those areas we had some difficulties with. Now, I think this very close work is in American interest too, because Iran is like the problem over the seas, but you could meet it anywhere. Iran has threatened and actually has targeted many American consulates and embassies over the world, has sent its allies to hit American targets in Lebanon since the 80s, and lately in other areas of the world, some I can't speak of. And the threat of Iran, let's remember, has been an ally of Russia and of China and of North Korea, being an area of evil as we see it threatening the whole Western world and the democracies around the world. And America, looking at it as it's the big Satan, was always the target of Iran. Although at the moment, not easy to hit because America is far away and there's a big sea in between, we knew and we actually were talking with Americans about programs of Iran to hit America. And as we speak, Iran is threatening American bases and civilians around the world. So you should know that's an issue, that's a big issue. So I think America and Israel have been acting together as friends, as allies, to target the Iran threat, looking at Israel as a front line and yet as a threat to the United States and to the Western world at all.
Thank you, Kinley. It was very clear. Another question from our audience. Those missiles from Iran that hit Israel, are there high volume valued missiles or the cheap ones? What is the most needed help for Israel from us at this moment? I think that by the way, I can answer this question with the videos and clips that I will show afterwards, and people will understand the magnitude of those missiles. But I'll leave it to you to answer.
So, okay, great, Asaf. I'll be happy to see you too. Look, those missiles are very pricey, actually. So the ballistic missiles cost a lot, and there's a lot of effort put into them. Yet, look, Iran is a rich country. If it would have taken its gas and all its assets, the things that it has, and put it to the wealth of people, Iran would have been more like Saudi Arabia than it is today. Today, it's a rich government with poor people. Not talking about, human rights and all that issue, but even taking that aside, Iran has put billions of dollars investing in Hamas, investing in Hezbollah, is investing in its proxies in Iraq, investing in Yemen, and in its own nuclear and ballistic program. So that costed Iran tens of billions of dollars. And that has taken Iran economically many years back. But this government started in 1979 after they took over Iran and kicked out the king, the Shah, has put its main aim to demolish Israel. And let's say in Tehran until yesterday, there was a clock showing the years, the days, the minutes and the seconds back to the year in which Israel will stop being. And that the year was 2040. So it was targeting 15 years ago ahead. And you have to understand, Iranian people, it's an ancient, I could even say noble country that has always been very strong. It's a very long being, and they have a lot of patience. So they targeted Israel and the United States and the whole Shia idea of bringing the Islam as the Shia looks at it all over the world. They see this situation of a free world as a temporary one, and they do see it as the agenda to overtake the world, and it will take time. So that's about the missiles and a bit about the ideology behind them.
Thank you, Kinley. Now a question that I'm very interested as well. I'm not sure that you're allowed to tell us. Was the enriched uranium moved prior to the U.S. attack? And if so, do we know where it has been moved to and what's the plan?
I'll say, frankly, what I can say. I say we are overlooking Fordo and the other areas in which Iran had their uranium. Uranium is only one part of the way you build a nuclear weapon. I'll give you a short brief about nuclear weapon, which is an open thing I can talk about. It's about three portions. The first one is what you use in the nuclear weapon. The Iranians went on uranium. There's also another option, but that was their way of enriching in uranium, and that's one part of the program. The second one is the weapon, the ballistic missile that you use and you build in order to put on the nuclear power. And then the third thing is what we call weaponizing it, which is something very, and about that I can't speak a lot. Now, as far as we can see, we've hit all three parts, but we haven't demolished them. So the Iranians still have a portion of uranium, they still have some ballistic missiles, and they were working on the weaponizing. Actually, the weaponizing was the most important part, and that's the most discrete part. So we are watching very carefully what was taken in Fordo, what left there, and the fact that we are ruling the aerial area of Tehran and of most of Iran gives us the intel that can help us again target whatever is left from the nuclear weapon at the moment.
Okay. Thank you very much. We have a couple of questions about the Israeli exit plan, as we call it. Like, how does Israel define success in this confrontation with Iran? And what are we preparing for? Are we preparing for deterrence, regime containment, something broader? Like, what are the goals for eventually?
So I think the first and foremost thing we had to have is the understanding that Israel is winning and the Iranians are losing. Understanding that was the first, not and foremost, I think, target, and we're there at the moment. And that's the base. It's not enough. At the next stage, what we need, and that may take days, weeks, hopefully not more than that, but that depends a lot on the Iranian people and government, of course. The next stage is coming to some kind of compromise, of negotiation. And after understanding that we have won, the Iranians have lost, but it could get worse. And if the Iranian government, specifically Khamenei and its people, will understand that worse things may come if they don't stop at the moment, that will bring them to negotiate and to compromise after they got such a strong hit. I don't think they'll demolish. There's a slight chance we'll see a change in government, but most chances are we'll have to still deal with the same government. We would like to see a change in who rules the Iranian people, but as I said at the beginning, we can't take that for granted. So we do see the Iranians understanding that if they go on, they'll be hit even stronger. I hope they won't attack American targets, but if they do, they will be hit stronger by stronger forces. And at some time, hopefully close, they'll understand it's time to stop. Maybe we'll see some international help there, I'm not sure, but we can see some of the allies of Iran saying to the Iranian people, listen, we've had enough, we don't want to take risks for the gas leaving Iran. Iran holds a lot of the gas of China, sells some very cheaply to China. The Russians get some things from them, and they may be at some time an international talk saying, Iran, even though you would go on, stop at the moment because we've had enough. And hopefully one of those two paths will be those that are taken, but we can't take it for granted.
Thank you. I think there's a little bit of a follow-up. There's a little bit more specific questions about what is considered a realistic goal through the next few weeks in terms of approximately proportion of ballistic missiles and launchers destroyed. Like, what's the and also like what's the portion of ballistic production that can be destroyed?
That's a tricky question, and it will be a tricky answer. I apologize at the moment. We would like to say 100%. Being, realistic people, you usually don't get whatever you want. We would like to see Iran totally non-nuclear, and we will negotiate that, hopefully. That was Trump's, base negotiation. And we would like to see Iran with no ballistic missiles. That's even tougher, I'll tell you. I must say, I didn't speak a lot about it, but I think you've heard, read, or understood yourself that Israel has the #1 defensive aerial system today in the world, built of 4 portions, one above the other. And that's something no country in the world, including the United States, doesn't have. We will see Western countries building the same way of 4 areas of defensive acts. So I do think President Trump said he wants no nuclear Iran. That's the #1 turn. The Europeans, the E3, are actually more obsessive, I think, about the ballistic program because it threatens Europe, not only Israel. And I think we'll see some negotiations targeting or going towards 100%, but we will see some negotiation around that area.
Thank you. Another question from our audience. What is your assessment of the international response so far, especially from Europe? And what more should democratic allies be doing in this situation?
Well, I'll tell you something. There's a the Jewish pasuk in the Tanakh, in the Bible, about Am levadad yishkon. The people of Israel will be on their own. I don't see that as an ideal. I think it's actually a curse. We will read about it in the next parsha of Balak. And I do think that Israel wants and should be working with its allies in the world, focus on the Western world, America, and Europe. And we have had some disappointments in those areas. I mean, France has taken a very hostile act just before we started the war, and even as we speak, isn't working enough with Israel as it should, as we see it. Germany and Britain have taken more of a stand, and yet I think Europe can do much more in order to weaken Iran. And let's remember, Iran has an influence on what's going in Russia, which has a straight influence in what's going with Ukraine, Russia, and in Europe. So I do think Europe should be more keen about weakening Iran and making sure that Iran will stop being a producer of terror around the world, specifically to Europe. And that's something I would expect of Europe, and I am a bit disappointed at the moment.
Thank you. We've known Israel has been in a situation of a very political, I will call it, discourse over the last couple of years. And we've seen it also regarding the war on Gaza. You are a member of Knesset of the opposition. And you are talking about support of the Israeli government operation currently. What is the situation in Israel currently, politically wise, regarding this war with Iran?
I think there's almost over 90% agreement in the parliament and in the Israeli society that I would say close to 100%. But we have even here a few differences. But I think altogether, most of the people in Israel, a huge majority, agree that the Rising Lion operation is the right one. It was done on the right time, and it's a just war that we're now targeting for our freedom and for our existence after 77 years of being of the Israeli country. Now, that's a rare thing. And even at these times of agreement, we have our disagreements about other issues. So I've been talking about problems. We haven't made our people ready enough, our cities ready enough for such a war. And I'm sure, Saf, you agree. I know that other people have been talking, and I think it's right, about putting bringing back the hostages at a higher priority, even as we speak. And where we actually are very deferred is about the need of finishing the war in Gaza, where I am totally for finishing the war, and others see that as a loose and something that isn't right. So we have our big differences, but we have managed to bring in, as I said, 90 or over 90% of people of Israel standing behind this operation, and I think that's an important thing. As we speak, actually, Iran has shot missiles at Qatar. I suppose it's at Qatar American forces. I'm not sure, but that's our most new news, which is bad news for the world at the moment.
Developing story that is currently happening during our webinar.
Yes, actually, also at Iraq. Iran is also shooting at Iraq. I suppose it's targeting American bases in Iraq and Qatar as we speak.
Yeah, we get the whole notifications now, and also there's also sirens in the towns that are Tur-Paz, that just around the Gaza Strip. I don't know still whether it's from the Gaza Strip or from Iran. We don't know, but we'll update as we go along. Maybe it's a good opportunity to take a question that is a little bit on the side from the Iran issue. We have a question here of how seriously do you regard the plan of France and others to force the two-state solution on Israel as soon as the Iran operation closed down?
I'll tell you something. As I said before about the change of government in Iran, I think countries today should be more modest about the way they interfere in other governments and countries' issues. And I think the Palestinian issue is a bloody issue that Israel has to deal with, and the sooner the better. And yet, trying to enforce some kind of agreement from outside, led from France, I think won't get us anywhere, won't make any progress. And now it's not that I'm happy with what's happening in Israel at the moment. And as a opposition member, I maybe can say that even stronger. But nonetheless, I think we won't make any progress by force, outside force. And I expect France and the other countries to give their way to Israel and to the Palestinians to work out how we make out this thing. And I must say, after the 7th of October, we have a much harder way and a longer way to go in order to come into terms with the Palestinians. I sadly enough say, I think we will have to see a different president in the Palestinian Authority, a different leader, in order to make that progress. I'm saying that sadly enough, and we will have to come to some kind of agreement around Gaza too, and that's also an area of debate. So all these things are complicated, and I don't have one idea of how to finish it, and I do think it will have to wait till we finish the line operation.
Thank you. I'm going to give one last question from the audience, and then we're going to switch to the videos that I want to share with you guys. I'm just going to say we have a couple of questions from the audience about how can you support and assist and different organizations that you can support in Israel. They're doing a lot of great work. I'm just going to say that you can email us, the American Jewish Congress. We're going to send you an email afterwards, and you can reply to it. And we're going to direct you, and we'll be able to connect you as well together with Tova and with the American Jewish Congress and with everything that's going on in Israel. Now, Kinley, one last question for you, which is also connected to the Gaza situation. Could you give some insight from on the ground into the Gaza humanitarian aid situation?
Yes, I'm actually very much focused as chairman of the subcommittee for Foreign Affairs, and I can say this: we are very much focused on the humanitarian aid to Gaza since the 7th of October, and even more in the last few months. We have started a new plan with the American government and with American parties or groups that are helping us aid Gaza without aiding Hamas, which is a very complicated issue. And we have managed to make progress, meaning we see more food getting into the Gaza Strip and not helping Hamas to take it over and strengthen itself, but to go straight to the people. That's a complicated issue, and we have made, as I say, progress, and I'm very much focused on that issue. I see it as a big target of Israel in the coming months, meaning we want to make sure every citizen in Gaza will get its food, water, supplies, and will be able to have some kind of honest life, and yet not to see Hamas strengthening its forces. Of course, the end of the war, we will have to see some kind of change in Palestinian government in Gaza, and that's also a big debate. But the way there is not letting Hamas take over supplies as it did for the first year and a half of the war. So that's a big thing. And we're making progress. As I said, we haven't got there yet, but we're making a lot of progress. Asaf, if I can just finish with another sentence, okay?
Of course.
I would like, as we speak, to first thank you, and second, say something. I was in Washington 3 weeks ago, just before the operation started, and I met many of our friends in Washington, and I spoke with others. And I want to tell you something very important. It's not easy to be a country in war. It's even harder to be in war for almost 2 years, and having 7 different areas of fights around you makes it even harder. And the fact we have so many friends, allies, country allies, but also the people of Israel in America and in other places standing with us, sending the blessings, sending the help, coming to visit. I mean, at times there were only Jews coming into Israel from the United States. They were the only missions that came and stood with us. And that's something very, very big. To come to a country in war isn't something to be taken for granted. So whether you stay at your home and send your blessings, whether you contribute, whether you come and visit, standing with Israel is the best thing you can do to help us win this war. So I want to thank you for that and to ask you to continue doing that.
Kinley, I want to thank you for your very, very, very important insight and the time that you have given and dedicated to us to give us all the information about what's going on. I want to share with everyone a little bit of the videos and photographs about heat grounds here in Ramat Gan, just for you to get an understanding of everything that's going on and how magnitude those rockets are. So we have also a couple of videos. This is a video from the last heat here in Ramat Gan, just last Thursday. You can see the destruction and how the magnitude of those rockets. This is a rocket with almost 1,000 pounds of explosive. You can see this is a residential building that was hit. The entire building obviously is evacuated. And you can see also in the bottom of the building, these are concrete walls. You can see a hole within those concrete, and to understand the magnitude of those rockets, thank God, the people here in this building were in their safe room. The people in the other buildings that you can see over here, for example, don't have a safe room. This is a little bit of what MK Kinley spoke about. You can see the entire destruction of buildings. I will show you a little bit more of the pictures. This is from above. You can see the entire heat zone and how magnitude, the range of this explosive. We're talking about a series of about 10 blocks were hit in different degrees from the blast itself and from the explosive, obviously. This is a little bit from the other side of the street. You can see all of the buildings, how the damages to all of the apartments. Obviously, this is from the hit on the first day. of the war of the Iranian attack in Ramat Gan. We had one person died in this attack in Ramat Gan. You can see the destruction and the damages to the buildings. Just look at this. People here, as I said, we have dozens of people who were injured in this situation. We have thousands of people who are evacuated from their homes. In this specific rocket hit, we have about 100 buildings who were hit from the blast or from the explosive itself. So you can understand we're talking about thousands of people who are currently not in their homes, who are sleeping in hotels. By the way, some of them without safe rooms in the hotel. So the situation is extreme. This is another picture from last Thursday. You can see this is the concrete that I mentioned, and how it got destroyed as well. To understand, this is another residential building and all the damages. This is a kindergarten. 2 kindergartens that are right on the hit spot of last Thursday rocket. Think about it. What would happen if the education system here in Israel was open and there were kids, about 60 kids, who were supposed to be there during this time? So luckily it was closed and all the kids are at home. That's it. I want to thank everyone, especially our speakers, who took the time to join us, to Kinley, to Daniel, President of the American Jewish Congress, and Tova Dorfman, President of the World Zionist Organization. And thank you for everyone for joining us. This moment in history reminds us of the importance of standing together. The American Jewish Congress will continue to lead the efforts of strengthening U.S. and Israel cooperation, defend democratic values, and support those affected by this conflict. If you haven't already, please follow up on social media and our mailing list. We will send you a follow-up email, as I mentioned before. Wishing you all a safe and good week. And again, all of us are praying for the immediate release of our 50 brothers and sisters who are still held in captivity by Hamas. Thank you very much and goodbye.